What are subtle red flags at a job interview that say working here would suck? The game is changing with work from home becoming the norm. The old tactics of checking the break room and office decor no longer apply. The usual standbys are still there. Check the benefits. The time off policy in particular. How does vacation, sick and float work? If it's a large company, is paternity leave paid? Or is maternity leave even a thing? If there's no retirement policy, then that's all you need to know. If there isn't 401k matching, it's also not a long-term deal. With the work from home situation, are they really explicit about how excited they are to return to office? Ask how they are enjoying work from home. Is remote work interfering with their business when it shouldn't? That's concerning. You'll get a sense of the organization's leaders as being out of touch based on this sticking point in particular. Are they offering to provide a budget to provision your home office? That's your green flag that they've thought this through. Most of this applies to office jobs. Mostly because manufacturing and service ate shit in the US decades ago. Cubicle life is the new factory worker. So don't expect pensions and lifetime positions anymore. If they tell you not to discuss pay, I never ever followed this rule. It's important to find a way to broach the subject with your co-workers. If they are of the mind frame that it's impolite to ask someone their pay, then tell them yours and pay very close attention. Do they smile a bit? Do they look disappointed? Try to gauge from that. Because we don't discuss pay has always been a way to hold down wages and nothing else. I always ask individuals/interviewers how they like working there. The response doesn't matter, it's the time they take to respond. If they immediately chime in with positives, it's usually a safe work environment, but if they pause to think about it, that is a big red flag. Always ask the interviewer about the last person who worked the position you are interviewing for. How long they worked. And why they left. Their answers can be very telling of the work environment. Just to add to the flame, I was an 18-year-old college student at the time. And they would schedule my work shift during my class time. My manager knew I was not available till 4 p.m. You are required to wear clothing that has the company logo. You must purchase it yourself from the company. I never made it to the interview. I got an email asking me to come in for an interview on date. I replied asking if there were other options as I would be on vacation on date. Never got a reply. Figured if they couldn't work around that, then I didn't want to work there anyway. They dodge questions on pay. Meaning they don't pay enough for what they expect of you. The word family in reference to the employees means they want you to work lots of unpaid overtime. Edit, also forgot. But if they keep talking about the experience you'll gain, that's also code for we know we're going to be underpaying you. When the interviewer says here we all wear many different hats. We're looking for rock stars. We're looking for people who will tolerate our shitty pay, hours, and treatment of employees. Ask my sexual orientation. I'm straight. But that's illegal to ask. Low tenure can be a big warning sign. If the entire team has turned over in the last 5 months, it may be for another reason. But I've found that it's usually because the culture is awful. They tell you you have to go to boot camp and probably even a war. The boss saying no one gets along with me. I need you on my side if you're going to work here. I once interviewed for a job wherein the interviewer actually directly told me that the job was extremely stressful and they'd had a slew of new hires quit within a month or two. The job was at a psychiatric hospital. I thanked her for being honest with me and said that I was not interested. As she was walking me out, she leaned in and said, "You're doing the right thing. Our last hire quit because he said he was having palpitations all the time here and was worried he would have a heart attack." About 3 years later, at another company, I saw one of the women who had interviewed me. She worked in a totally different position in a totally different setting. She said that the other woman who had interviewed me, the one who gave me the warning, actually did suffer a heart attack. She survived. And she stopped working there. I was so thankful she warned me. Most interviewers wouldn't do that. I didn't know it at the time. But "you'll be wearing many hats" was a sign that they were going to give me the work of 4 positions and the wage of 1. I didn't last a year there before I left, and now I won't even finish reading job ads that include that line. When they ask out of nowhere, what clients can you bring with you? We ain't got no toilet here. When you ask, what do you like about working here, and the interviewer talks about the location of the job, it's a great place to live, instead of the actual job. Not getting to speak with who your direct manager will be. A game room or ping pong table is advertised as a perk. The blatant overuse of buzzwords about your profession. Clearly written by someone with no clue. People seem tired. Well, the overtime isn't _mandatory_. But most folks stick around after hours most days. Spoilers, the overtime is mandatory. Do you have a strong personality? Meant everyone else who worked there were raging cunts who I literally got into massive shouting matches with and quit over within 6 months of having started. The money was good but no tie. I once found a job ad where under what we offer it said, an office on the 4th floor and no elevator, so free exercise to keep you healthy and fit. We can't offer you the salary you deserve, but we can offer experience and exposure. XD, fuck that, seriously, get lost. Receiving a job offer without a real interview. Or even directly after the interview. That's usually a sign of desperation on the employer's end. Also avoid anywhere that says, "We're like family here." Also avoid any position that doesn't have a clear job description. Or says something like, "The incumbent is responsible for other duties assigned as management sees fit." They will make you their bitch. At my last place of work, the person interviewing me had a printed cartoon on their wall of someone who looked like a bomb had blown up in their face. With the caption, "I spoke with boss name about it. I guess we're still doing it." That wasn't subtle at all. But I ignored it. The boss was an absolute tyrant who wouldn't listen to her staff. Consider changing her mind about anything. Or let people do the work they were best suited to do. She wouldn't show up for weeks at a time. The job itself was decent. But she was the worst boss I've ever had. When you are signing all the forms they give you and you are taking your time to read over every document so that you can fully understand what you are getting into, and people come in and start telling you that you don't need to read this and that just sign here and so on. Shitty. Passive-aggressive post-it notes all over the communal kitchen. How do you feel about mandatory overtime? I came in for a job interview at 7:30 p.m. The entire staff was still in the office. Should have known right then that 9 to 5 was not ever going to happen. One day I worked until 2:30 a.m. to finish up a big project. And my boss said to me I could come in an hour later the next morning. Gee, thanks brother. With my public transport/travel time, that gives me a solid 2 hours of sleep instead of just the 1. Company image is a priority. We expect our employees to conduct themselves appropriately during off hours. Basically, we fucking own you. You dress how we want, look how we want, and act how we want from now on. I was interviewing at a local business that had recently been acquired by a well-known corp. I asked the interviewers a question that I found invaluable: what do you personally find are the most challenging parts of this job? And I watched the light leave their eyes. They both sighed wryly and said, "It's really busy." And that was all I needed to hear to know that working there would be a nightmare. I emailed afterward to remove myself from consideration. And I am confident I did the right thing. How they treat their employees and how clean the place is. If everyone looks stressed and unhappy, I'd not feel comfortable working for the company. But also the cleanliness of the place. If the place is unclean, it shows unprofessionalism and no care for staff or customers. If they're always hiring, constant staff turnover means people quit a lot, so it must be shit. Edit, thanks for the award. You might have to work an occasional Saturday means you work every Saturday. I went into an interview for a low-level admin position. And they made me put my cell phone in a bucket up front, stating no phones are allowed in the back. It reduces productivity. Big nope for me. I was once in an interview where they said, "We don't work every weekend." I noped the fuck out of there. I interviewed for a job and the guy was just kind of off-putting. He answered a personal call the middle of the interview. Which fine, whatever. but never addressed or said sorry or excuse me for a second out of common courtesy and professionalism. Just sat and talked for an awkward couple of minutes. I was running errands all the next day and had 3 missed calls from the workplace. Missed another call the next day, but at that point I had decided it wasn't for me. When I tried returning his call to tell him I was no longer interested, he wasn't there. But then it became kind of entertaining because he called me nearly every day for 2 weeks after my interview. It's just a retail job. So I can only imagine how hard-pressed he was to have an employee and how that work environment must be. When they ask you illegal interview questions under the guise of polite chit-chat before or after the formal interview. I was once interviewed by 2 women and 3 men at an assessment center. One woman was a HR manager. The others were senior managers. When I spoke to the senior female manager alone, I asked her about the gender split. She said, "Honestly, I'm the only senior female, 1/50th, and sometimes the men expect me to clear up after the meetings." I'm so glad that she was honest. I rejected that offer. Thanks for watching.